Today, we are going to discuss common offenses. The first in the list are the crimes against a person. Crimes against persons under Title 8 of the Revised Penal Code, RPC, encompass offenses that directly impact an individual's life, liberty, and physical integrity. These crimes range from those causing death, such as parricide, murder, homicide, and infanticide, to non-lethal offenses, including abortion, dueling, physical injuries, and rape. Each crime has distinct elements, penalties, and jurisprudence that guide its application in the Philippine legal system. Parricide, as defined under Article 246 of the Revised Penal Code, is the unlawful killing of a person by the offender who shares a specific relationship with the victim. This crime is committed when an individual kills their legitimate or illegitimate spouse, parent, child, or any other direct descendant or descendant. The essential elements of parricide include the fact that 1. A person was killed, 2. The accused was responsible for the killing, and 3. There was a legally recognized familial relationship between the offender and the victim. To establish parricide, conclusive proof of the relationship, such as a birth certificate or marriage certificate, is required. The penalty for parricide is reclusion perpetua, depending on the presence of any aggravating circumstances. Murder, as defined under Article 248 of the Revised Penal Code, is the unlawful killing of a person with the presence of specific qualifying circumstances that elevate the crime beyond homicide. For a killing to be classified as murder, it must be attended by at least one of these qualifying circumstances. 1. Treachery, alevosía. 2. Premeditation. 3. Cruelty. 4. Use of poison. Or 5. Other qualifying circumstances established by law. Treachery occurs when the offender deliberately employs means that ensure the execution of the crime without risk to themselves and without the victim having a chance to defend themselves. Premeditation, on the other hand, requires proof that the offender had sufficient time for reflection and deliberately planned the killing before carrying it out. Cruelty is present when excessive suffering is inflicted upon the victim beyond what is necessary to kill. The use of poison involves administering a toxic substance to cause death. Additionally, the killing must not be classified as parricide or infanticide, as these crimes have their own legal distinctions. The penalty for murder is reclusion perpetua. Homicide, as defined under Article 249 of the Revised Penal Code, is the unlawful killing of a person without the presence of qualifying circumstances that would elevate the crime to murder or the specific familial relationship required for parricide. The essential elements of homicide include the fact that 1. A person was killed, 2. The absence of qualifying or exempting circumstances, and 3. The presence of intent to kill, animus interfecendi, on the part of the accused. Unlike murder, homicide does not involve aggravating factors such as treachery, premeditation, cruelty, or the use of poison. The lack of these elements makes homicide a lesser offense, but it is still punishable under the law. The prescribed penalty for homicide is reclusion temporal, which ranges from 12 years and 1 day to 20 years of imprisonment. The distinction between homicide and murder primarily lies in the absence of qualifying circumstances. However, both crimes require a clear intent to kill. Infanticide, as defined under Article 255 of the Revised Penal Code, is the unlawful killing of a child who is less than 3 days old or 72 hours from birth. This crime is committed when the accused, regardless of motive, intentionally causes the death of the newborn. The law recognizes that infanticide differs from homicide and murder due to the unique circumstances surrounding childbirth and maternal distress, particularly when committed by the mother. The key elements of infanticide include the age of the victim, which must be within 72 hours of birth, and the direct act of killing by the accused. The penalty for infanticide follows the same punishment as either parricide or murder, depending on the specific circumstances of the case. If the offender is the child's mother, and there is evidence that the act was committed due to the effects of childbirth or emotional distress, courts may impose a lesser penalty. However, If the crime is attended by qualifying circumstances similar to murder, a harsher penalty such as reclusion perpetua to death may apply. Abortion, as covered under Articles 256 to 259 of the Revised Penal Code, refers to the unlawful termination of pregnancy, with varying penalties depending on the nature of the act and the individual responsible. Intentional abortion, Article 256, occurs when a mother or another person deliberately induces the termination of a pregnancy with the intent to kill the fetus. This act is punishable by prisión mayor, 6 years and 1 day to 12 years, and/or a fine, reflecting the seriousness of the offense. Unintentional abortion, on the other hand, results from violence or physical harm inflicted upon the pregnant woman, causing the fetus to be expelled prematurely. However, this act lacks the direct intent to terminate the pregnancy. The penalty for unintentional abortion is prisión correccional, 6 months and 1 day to 6 years. Lastly, abortion by a physician or midwife refers to cases where medical professionals perform an abortion, whether or not they have the mother's consent. This is treated as a more severe offense due to the abuse of medical expertise, and the penalty imposed is prisión mayor, along with perpetual disqualification from the medical profession. Physical injuries, as defined under Articles 262 to 266 of the Revised Penal Code, refer to bodily harm inflicted upon a person, categorized based on the severity of the injury and the duration of incapacitation. Serious physical injuries, Article 263, occur when the victim is rendered incapacitated for labor or requires medical attention for more than 30 days, suffers permanent deformity, loss of a body part, or becomes insane, blind, or impotent due to the injury. The penalty for this offense ranges from prisión correccional to prisión mayor, depending on the extent of harm caused. Less serious physical injuries, Article 265, involve injuries that incapacitate the victim for 10 to 30 days, carrying a penalty of arresto mayor, 1 month and 1 day to 6 months. Meanwhile, slight physical injuries, Article 266, refer to injuries that cause incapacitation for 1 to 9 days, or those that do not require medical attention but still cause physical suffering. The penalty for slight physical injuries is arresto mayor to 30 days. Rape, as defined under Articles 266A to 266B of the Revised Penal Code, is a serious crime involving non-consensual sexual intercourse or penetration, committed through force, intimidation, or when the victim is incapable of giving consent. The elements of rape include the act of sexual intercourse or penetration, the absence of consent, and the presence of aggravating circumstances, such as the use of weapons or when the victim is under 12 years old. The penalty for rape is reclusion perpetua to death, depending on the presence of aggravating factors. Jurisprudence establishes that consent is not a valid defense when the victim is below 12 years of age, as statutory rape does not require proof of force or intimidation. The mere act of engaging in sexual intercourse with a child below this age is already punishable by law.